Hello again, Mrs. Holland here. Our next story is Theseus and the Minotaur, and it leads on quite nicely from our previous story about Daedalus and Icarus, because we learnt that Daedalus created the labyrinth, which is definitely going to feature in this story here. Here's a picture of the labyrinth. Some of you in Year 5 will know this story, Theseus and the Minotaur, but as we know with Greek myths, every version seems to be a little bit different. So let's see what this one is like. Theseus was outraged to learn that Daedalus and Icarus had escaped. Since Daedalus was an Athenian, Minos decided to punish the people of Athens. Minos possessed a vast collection of birds and animals that his ships had brought to Crete from all over the world. One creature was too fierce to keep in an ordinary cage. This was the Minotaur, a monster with a man's body and a bull's head. The Minotaur fed on human flesh. It killed anyone who came near. Minos kept the monster in the labyrinth that Daedalus had built beneath the royal palace. The creature guarded Minos' treasure. What thief would dare enter the labyrinth knowing that the Minotaur lurked in its tunnels? As punishment for the escape of Daedalus and Icarus, Minos decreed that every year the city of Athens was to send 7 of its most beautiful young women and 7 of its handsomest young men to Crete. When they arrived, they would be thrust into the labyrinth and devoured by the Minotaur. Year after year, a ship with black sails carried the unfortunate victims to Crete. The Athenians wept to know that their sons and daughters were going to be eaten by a monster. They also wept for shame, knowing that they were too weak to save them. Minos possessed a powerful army. No city in the world could stand against the Cretans. Aegeus was the king of Athens. His son, Theseus, watched the black-sailed ships leave the harbour year after year. He clenched his fists with rage, seeing the cowardliness of the Athenians. "How much longer will we be slaves to the Cretans?" Theseus asked his father. "If we defy Minos, he will burn our city to the ground," Aegeus answered. "It is better to sacrifice a few young people to the Minotaur so that the rest of us can live." "Then sacrifice me," Theseus said. "Why should the king's son remain at home while other families are asked to give up their children?" "You do not know what you are asking," Aegeus cried. "You are my only son. Who will be king after me if you meet your death in the labyrinth?" "I do not intend to die," Theseus said. "I am going to kill the Minotaur." On the day the ship set sail, Aegeus asked his son, "How will I know if you succeed?" Theseus told his father, "Look at the ship's sails as it enters the harbour. If I am dead, the captain will hoist black sails. If I am alive, the sails will be white. White sails mean that I overcame the monster and I am on my way home." Aegeus kissed his son as he boarded the ship with the other unlucky young men and women bound for Crete. "May the gods protect Theseus and all the others," Aegeus murmured as he watched the black sails sinking below the horizon. The ship arrived in Crete. Theseus and his companions were led before Minos. "Would any of you like to beg for mercy?" the king asked. "You never granted mercy before," said Theseus. "Why would you grant it now? Better for us to die on our feet as heroes than live as cowards on our knees." Theseus's companions cheered. His words gave them courage. They were ready to face death with him. "You will have your wish," said Minos. "Tomorrow you will go into the labyrinth. We will see how brave you are when you meet the Minotaur." Minos' daughter, Ariadne, had been watching from behind a tapestry. She hated her father's cruelty, but she did not know how to stand against it. Theseus's words gave her courage. She thought of a way to save his life. That night, While everyone in the palace slept, Ariadne crept through the dark corridors to the dungeon that held Theseus and his companions. "Theseus, son of Aegeus, are you there?" she whispered. "Who speaks?" Theseus asked. "A friend," Ariadne answered. She thrust a bundle through the bars in the door. "If you wish to save your life and the lives of your friends, listen carefully to my words. A spool of thread and a sword are inside this bundle. Carry them with you when you enter the labyrinth tomorrow. Tie the thread to the entrance of the tunnel, and it will lead you into the labyrinth. Follow it back when you come out again. A magic force protects the Minotaur. Only this sword can kill it. Be brave, and may the gods protect you." "Who are you?" Theseus asked. "What is your name?" "I am Minos' daughter," she told him. "My name is Ariadne." Theseus and his companions entered the labyrinth before dawn. Minos' guards marched them to the entrance and drove them in with the points of their spears. Theseus carried the sword and spool concealed beneath his cloak. When the guards couldn't see him, he tied one end of the thread to a rusty spike hammered into the wall. He tossed the spool into the dark cavern. Theseus and his companions followed the thread deep into the labyrinth. Their torches' dim light revealed heaps of bones. Theseus recognised the clothes of friends who had sailed to Crete the year before. "The Minotaur must be near," he told his companions. He drew the sword from beneath his cloak. A roar filled the cavern. An immense shape appeared, blocking the path ahead. The creature's eyes glowed in the dark. 2 mighty horns rose above its head. Theseus felt its hot breath on his face. "I'm not afraid of you," Theseus shouted. "If you want a fight, you'll have one. Come on, I'm ready." Theseus stabbed at the monster. The Minotaur bellowed with rage. Theseus swung his sword at the Minotaur with all his strength. Again and again he thrust. Finally, a scream shook the cavern walls. Theseus felt hot blood gush over his body. The creature choked, gasped, then fell down dead. "I have killed the Minotaur," said Theseus. He cut off the monster's head with one stroke. "We will carry this back to Athens," he told his companions. "We will hang it in the temple of Athena to thank her for protecting us and bringing us safely home." Theseus and his companions followed the thread through the labyrinth. It led them back to the entrance, where Ariadne awaited them. "Hurry," she told the Athenians. "You must be aboard your ship before my father finds out that you've killed the Minotaur." "Farewell, Ariadne," said Theseus. "We will never forget your kindness." "My father will put me to death when he finds out that I helped you," Ariadne said. "My life is in your hands, Theseus. Take me with you." Theseus took Ariadne's hand. Together they boarded the ship for Athens. When Minos learned that the Minotaur was dead and his daughter was missing, he sent out his fleet to bring back the black-sailed ship. But it was too late. The Athenians were long gone, carrying Ariadne with them. Athena sent fair winds for the journey home. Theseus's ship sped across the ocean. It stopped at the island of Naxos to take on food and water. As the sailors worked, Theseus and Ariadne went for a walk along the shore. "I'm so happy," Ariadne said to Theseus. "I can hardly wait for us to return to Athens so we can start planning our wedding." "Wedding?" Theseus stopped in his tracks. He didn't want to marry Ariadne. It didn't matter that she had risked her life to save him. What mattered was that she had no wealth to bring to the marriage. Theseus wanted a bride who could make him rich. Ariadne lay down to take a nap. Once she was asleep, Theseus ran back to the ship. The Athenians immediately set sail, abandoning Ariadne on the beach. Athena, looking down from Mount Olympus, saw the cowardly trick that Theseus had played on Ariadne. She saved him from the Minotaur, and this is how he thanks her, Athena said. Ariadne will weep when she awakes. Theseus will weep too when he returns to Athens. I will make sure of that. Athena cast a forgetting spell over the ship, causing a cloud to cover one important detail in Theseus's mind. After a voyage of many weeks, the ship sailed into the harbour at Athens. Aegeus sat watching from the cliffs. "There it is!" he cried when he saw the ship that had sailed for Crete. He strained to see the colour of its sails. They were black. "My son is gone, with all his companions," Aegeus wailed. He hurled himself from the cliff into the sea. Theseus saw him fall. "My father!" he shrieked. Then he remembered what Athena had caused him to forget until it was too late. He had not changed the ship's sails. They were still black. Athena's words came true. Theseus wept for his father as Ariadne had wept for him. But what came of Ariadne? She found someone who loved her for her kindness and courage. He was much better husband than Theseus could ever have been. She married the god Dionysus.